Doc Rivers going to the Bucks. Should the Sixers go after Malcolm Brogdon? Or is this a championship team, all in or bust? We'll talk about that and more next on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Hello, my name is Keith Pompey. I'm the co-host, one of the co-hosts of Locked On 76ers. I'm right here alongside my right-hand man, John Mitch. What's up, Mitch? How you doing, brother?
Keith, I'm doing well, man. Thank you for asking, my friend. I'm doing good.
Okay. John was dropping knowledge yesterday about Wilt Chamberlain. I didn't know that his mom went to high school. I knew she went to high school with him, but I didn't know that they remained close friends and the whole nine. So he gave us some insightful stuff about, Wilt and basically put what Joel is doing, put in perspective. So if y'all have a chance, go listen to that. You really will like it. View it. Yesterday's podcast. But today, we're going to drop some real knowledge. Now, here's the deal. Doc Rivers was the former coach of the 76ers. Dr. Rivers is one of the all-time winningest coaches in the NBA. But he has a problem getting out of the second round of the playoffs since his days in Boston, right? He won a championship with the Boston Celtics in 2008. He got fired from the Sixers last year with 2 years left on his contract. Now he's currently working for ESPN. But with Adrian Griffin getting fired yesterday, Doc Rivers is the front runner to get the job for the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, Mitch, I got to ask you, bro, do you think that Doc Rivers is a great fit for Giannis Antetokounmpo and Dame Lillard for that team, the Milwaukee Bucks, that's a half a game ahead of the Sixers in the Eastern Conference standings?
Yeah, I think, well, obviously Doc steps on to a well-constructed team, Keith. And that's an interesting question. We're talking about a guy who just got fired. It's the ink's not dry on his walking papers with the 76ers. And, I think he's an upgrade from Adrian Griffin. But it'll be a fresh breath for the Bucks. I think Giannis will be happy. We'll see if Dame is happy. They just need somebody who can get them to play defense. And we've seen throughout his career. Early in Doc's career when he had. I'm going back to his days in Orlando when he had Ben Wallace, and those guys. He really had guys playing a very aggressive defense. Of course, he had to have a great shot blocker and defender like Ben didn't hurt. But I think it's a good move for them. I've never seen a guy. It seems like in Milwaukee now they're pulling the trigger a lot on coaches now. That's a kind of a shaky ship to be on if you're in the coaching profession. But Doc, he's won a championship, and the goal in Milwaukee is to win a championship. Is Doc the right guy? I don't know. I don't know if Doc is the right guy. I thought Doc had settled in as a broadcaster, but apparently, man, he's still got that coaching bug.
Yeah, he definitely still has that coaching bug, and I think a lot of it is like, chasing legacy, right?
Yeah.
When you look at Doc, last year the last two jobs he had, he was fired. I mean, you look at him, what he did in the regular season with the Sixers. I mean, Doc Rivers had arguably the best 3-year run that the Sixers had in recent history, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he compiled a 154-82 regular season record with the Sixers. You know, they also won his first season there. They were the number 1 seed in the East. They just couldn't get out of it. Now, when I say he has a date with history and he's chasing history, you know, overall, Rivers has a 197, 763 record over 24 seasons with the Orlando Magic, Boston Celtics, the Clippers, and the Sixers, right?
1,097.
Yeah, 1,097. What did I say? 197?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Don't kill me, Doc. Don't kill me. But yeah, 1,097. So look, that ranks second in regular season wins. If he comes back, it would be ranked second in regular season wins among active coaches and 9th in NBA history. Now, he is 2 wins of shy of surpassing Sixers coach and Hall of Famer Larry Brown, who has 1,098 wins. So if he comes back, and you know he wants to come back, it's all about chasing that. I mean, he had the 4th highest total of postseason victories at 111. So I think that's what it is. Now, the thing about the Bucks job, which makes it so tough, is Giannis has a lot of power. You know, from what you hear is Giannis is the reason why they fired the coach.
Right.
Budenholzer. Then you hear that Giannis is the reason why they hired Adrian Griffin. Giannis wanted a coach who had NBA player experience, who played in the league. It's like that was a blunder. And then you realize that Adrian wasn't equipped at this particular time to coach this team with these future Hall of Famers on the team, right? Dame and Giannis.
Right.
So now you bring Doc in there. What is Doc going to do? Just let them do what they want to do and stand out of the way and be a CEO? You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, if there's a knock on Doc, is Doc has a habit of when stuff goes wrong, shifting the blame. Now, I don't know if you're going to do that against Giannis with all that power he has over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, you know, if they're bringing Doc in, you know, again, like you said, Doc is a guy who, you know, he's managed, coached a bunch of Hall of Famers. You know, that's always going to be on his resume, whether, you know, it's Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, those guys in Boston, Kawhi. But like you mentioned earlier, the issue is Doc hasn't gotten out of the second round in forever now. You know, so and the expectation of Milwaukee is, again, it's championship or bust. You know, I've kind of always looked at Giannis and said, this is a guy who really doesn't get involved in the tinkering, but apparently he does get involved more. He's much more involved than people think. So do they butt heads? Or, I mean, with Giannis, you think of a guy who always wants to win. You know, Dame's legacy is like, hey, do I want to leave this league without a championship? So I'm sure they had a lot of conversations about this. I think they had to, you know, after making that trade. So, you know, it's going to be interesting. It's another storyline for sure in the NBA, because people who, like, you've worked with Doc, you covered him for a number of years now, and I covered Doc when I was in Washington. Doc is like a politician. You know, Doc is like a politician. When he says something, usually he's looking down the road to, you know, to play something in somebody's head. But making this move this early on Adrian Griffin, a guy who lots of people have been saying should have been a head coach for a long time in this league. But obviously they weren't responding for whatever reason. So, yeah, so often we say that they're not responding. It's like, you guys are the ones making the hundreds of millions of dollars. You play some defense. The coach can only exhort you to play defense so much. At some point, you got to do it on your own. And they had the pieces to win a championship. They're probably the second best team in the East. And while we've been lauding Joel Embiid as the best player in the world, there are people who will still tell you Giannis is a better player than Joel. So we'll see. Doc, if and when he gets that job, obviously he's chasing legacy, and Doc is not the coach that Larry Brown was by any stretch of the imagination, whose heels he's nipping at. But it's going to be interesting. It adds another storyline to the NBA.
Yeah, the problem with the whole thing with, we talk about coaches, and we talk about players having to put an onus on themselves. The problem I found out with the NBA is that these players are extremely smart. And if you get a coach in there who doesn't really know what they're talking about, he's going to lose them.
He's tuned out, yeah.
I mean, he's tuned out. And it's one of those things where, especially when you have two of the all-time greatest guys. Now, I'm not saying that these are the two guys who are like saying, we tuned the coach out. But when you have guys like that who play at an elite level and this and that, and you put a coach in there in front of them who don't really know what's going on, especially in front of a veteran team that they have, it's not a good situation, man. It really not. And that's where you feel like you need an assistant head coach who can help you out. I think when they lost Terry Stott, because apparently, Adrian Griffin got on Terry Stott at practice one day, or wherever it was, a meeting, Terry resigned. And let's keep it real. That was the guy that you had, the guy who was respected, the guy this and that. Once he leaves, it's on you, bro. It's on you. And you feel bad for him because, this was he was a first year coach. That was a tough job for him to get, because let's face it, they had the number one record in the NBA last year.
Yeah.
And they went out in the first round. So that's led to the coach who won an NBA championship a couple years prior getting fired. So they're bringing you in to elevate the expectations. But then you look at their defensive rating, they slid from number 4 last year all the way down to number 22. So when you factor that stuff in, it's just a bad situation for them. So I understand what's going on, and you hate it for them, but unfortunately, you can't put a rookie coach, who's trying to figure things out in front of a championship team with a lot of veterans, and they're gonna look at you like, what I mean, dog. It's kind of like, and I hate to say this, it's kind of like me and you being from Philly, and we go somewhere and we meet this one dude. Everybody like, yo, man, I got my bull from Philly. And you you down at Howard. I'm going to give Howard a shout out, right? So you walking on the yard on Howard, and they telling you this cat is from Philly.
Right.
And you like, all right, I got to meet him. So then
I know where you're going with this.
You say, yo, man, where you from? What part of Philly? And the bull come out and say, I'm from East Philly. You like East Philly?
Oh, you from Kansas?
Philly, man, ain't no such place. Where at in East Philly? Actually, is far West Philly. Okay, I'm from West Philly. You just said East Philly. Where at? Oh, I'm from Lancaster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you looking at them like, oh, it don't really mean much in the grand scheme of things. But why are you fronting like you something and you're not? You got exposed. So I think that's what the big problem is right then and there. And you know how it is. We all been there. There's always some dude that said they was from the crib, but they really weren't from the crib. And like the reason why I'm using East Philly as an example, because that happened to me at Pitt. They said they was from East Philly, and I was like, East Philly, where's that at? Like, where you from? You mean you from Camden? Like,
right. Oh, you're on the other side of the river.
And then he was like, yeah, you from the other side of the river. And the boy was like, well, actually, it's far, far west. I'm like, huh? Well, so far west. Where you from, Yadin? Where you from? Like Delaware County? What? He said Lancaster. I said,
oh wow.
I was like, oh, okay, bro. So you understand what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? But listen, y'all, when we get back, we want to talk about Malcolm Brogdon. Is he a guy that you feel like the Sixers need to go after? Right? I championed him last time. I felt like he was someone that I felt like the Sixers should have gone after the last time. It didn't work out. So we'll talk about that when we get right back. Hungry Root is the easiest way to get fresh, high-quality food delivered to your door. They've got healthy groceries and simple receipts all in one place. Take a fun short quiz and Hungry Root will get to know you, your goals, and how you like to eat. They'll ask what flavors you like, which kitchen appliances you use, and more. And then you'll keep your needs and preferences top of mind to start building your chart with delicious recipes and all the groceries you need this week. Right now, Hungry Root is offering Locked On NBA listeners 40% off their first delivery and free vegetables for life. That sounds pretty good for me, man. I love me some vegetables. But just go to hungryroot.com, locked on, to get 50% off your first delivery and get your free growth veggies. That's hungryroot.com, locked on. Don't forget to use our link so they know that we sent you. I'm telling y'all, do it today, people. Definitely do it today. And here's the thing. After you go to Hungry Root, check out eBay Motors, right? Check it out. And the thing I want y'all to know about eBay Motors is it's like one of those things where, there's over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, you're part of the guaranteed to fit your ride, right? Any part you get is guaranteed to fit your ride anytime or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into an MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items apply. Exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. Now, Mitch, what's your thoughts on Malcolm Brogdon right now? Malcolm Brogdon, several years ago, people forget he beat out Joel Embiid for Rookie of the Year, right? He was at the Milwaukee Bucks. He was balling. It didn't really work out there. Then he was traded to the Indiana Pacers, and then from there, he goes to the Celtics, and now he's he got Sixth Man of the Year last year with Boston. And it's funny, remember, they tried to trade, they had this trade, and I believe they tried to trade another one of his teammates. His teammate name escaped me. It's on the top of my head right now, top of my tongue. And they couldn't get it done. So they ended up trading him.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's in Portland. He's shooting 42% in Portland. He was been kind of like a part-time starter. The last 4 games with the Blazers, he's averaging 21 points, 7 assists, right? He's shooting 50% from 3. right?
Yeah.
In the last 4 games. What's your thoughts on him?
If we look at the roster and we say we're not going to, oh, I'm sorry about that, Key.
Mm-hmm.
And we say that we're not going to make a lot of adjustments to the roster, and we don't know that yet. We don't know what they're going to do with the trade deadline. If you do bring in a guy like Malcolm Brogdon, you do bring in a guy who has always been a very good shooter. Okay, and it would be nice to have another guy who can continue to space the floor for them. And he's not also a guy who you can put on the point. So, and from a salary standpoint, he's not going to kill you. He's probably a guy who's like, hey, he probably sees that roster, the Sixers roster, as an attractive place where he could, that backcourt. I would love to see him in the backcourt alongside Maxey, because then you can move Maxey, off the ball. You're small. That's going to be an issue, when those guys are on the court together. But you can mix and match him, put him back there with Kelly Oubre. And, we keep talking about, DeAnthony Melton like he's gone, you know what I mean? And we're waiting for him to get back. So he would be a nice pick if they're not, if they're not going to go all in at the trade deadline. He's a nice addition. He's a guy who you bring in here who makes a contribution. And the biggest contribution is he can, he can score. And in a league that's completely moving towards offense now, more so than defense, he can score the basketball.
Yeah, he can score, and that's the thing. He can play on and off the ball. The thing is, the one thing is, like I think if you get him, because I talked about it before, I like really what Pat Beverly's bringing to the team, right? But I think that if you got him, he would be a starter to take some of the ball handing duties off of Tyrese Maxey. There's a lot of people who look at it and be like, "Yo, what are you talking about?" Tyrese is an all-star candidate player. At the point he's doing this, but if you pay a lot of attention to the games closely, Tyrese hasn't been playing a lot of the point. It's been a lot of it's been a lot of Pat Bev in there, a lot of other Tobias Harris. Like they're putting him in great positions to score. And don't get me wrong, he's getting some dimes. He's doing a lot of other things, but like they really want him more in attack mode. It seems like lately, right? And that 2-man game with him and Joel, that pick and roll that they're doing, I see him getting it, the assist, but I feel like better off he might be better in space, and then you get a shooter. My only concern is like, what are you going to do with this rotation? What are you going to do? You're going to have to get rid of a couple people for him, right? Maybe some expiring contracts, which is good. Give up some draft picks. But my thing is, what are you going like? Is this a move because you feel like Melton's back is bad, right? Because if not, if you feel like Melton's having a career year, and if you feel like he's better than Melton, then it's kind of sort of like, okay, so how's that going to impact Patrick Beverly's minutes? So those are just the questions that I have.
Yeah.
But I do like it. I mean, I do like him. I think that he's a good player. It's just that you just got to figure out how all this is going to work out. That's all.
Yeah. And the drum I continue to beat is DeJounte Murray. That's the guy that I really would like to see come in play. But adding a guy like Malcolm Brogdon as a player, it's just like with this roster, it feels like the 76ers roster more so than at this point, more so than any team in the league who's you hear in trade talks is the most unsettled, because you just don't know what it's going to look like after the trade deadline.
Yeah, I'm with you, bro. I'm with you.
Yeah, you just don't. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, we haven't seen a completely healthy roster. but we've seen the parts that they have acquired in the trade really make contributions.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a good segue right here. Like, we talked about it before we got on here. The question that you asked me, are the Sixers now in championship but or bust
Mm-hmm.
all in mode? So, that's a great question. So we'll talk about that when we get right back from talking about FanDuel. The NFL season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's number one sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same game day parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit fanduel.com/locked on and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Look, y'all, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On Plus, our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Do it today, people. Definitely do it today. Now, Mitch, so do you think they're all in?
I hope they're all in. I don't. We've moved beyond the stage of what's this team going to be. I mean, right now they're a half game out of second place in the conference standings. They're getting a second MVP season, is what it looks like for Joel Embiid. Knock on wood, stay healthy. Um, yeah, I think they have to go all in. I think this puts the focus on Daryl Morey really intensely. What are you going to do? Are you going to stand pat? If they stand pat, I don't know that they're a better team than Boston. But I don't want to, I don't want to have a great season that Joel Embiid is having and just say, okay, yeah, the goal is now to get beyond the second round. He's like the best player in the league by far so far, and in a league with some absolutely great players. So I believe you have to go all in at this point. You have to make a decision on what your team looks like and what your team will look like and can look like after the trade deadline. But I don't want to keep wasting seasons with Joel Embiid. It's been 40 years now, into the 41st year since the Sixers won a championship, since 2001, since they got out of the second round. Yeah, I think they have to be all in, and that the onus falls on Daryl Moore to make that happen.
Okay, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think that is out there who can help them right now? That's available.
Mm-hmm.
Who can help them come out of the East, win a championship?
Yeah, no, I think again, I think the Jonathan Murray, man, I'm so very high on him because of the combinations they can make with him. Another guy I also like, man, I've always been a DeMar DeRozan fan. If you can get DeMar DeRozan, I think he's a guy, who could put you over the top.
Do you think DeMar will stunt the growth of Maxey though?
Even if it does for 1 year, I think I think great players will. I think Embiid is playing such a high level that guys will fall in line. I mean, we know what Maxey can do, and we know that they're going to extend him.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous because I feel like personally I don't see anybody out there. Like I know you said DeMar DeRozan and DeJounte Murray, but I don't know if they get the Sixers over Boston in a playoff series. I think that with Derek White is very underrated.
Yeah.
You know Drew Holiday more than me. You covered him. You know how special he is. I mean, they got the all-star wings, the all NBA wings, and Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Kristaps Porzingis is stretching the floor, knocking down shots. And old man Al Horford might be the best six man in the league, right? So you look at their bench and you say, well, outside of that bench, I mean, outside of that six, they're weak, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get it. And there are certain times where they slip up and get boat raced and lose a game or whatever. But I feel like in playoff basketball, the biggest question mark that they have is the coach. But then they upgraded the coaching. I feel like this is a quality team. And I feel like if the Sixers can't get someone that they feel 100% confident is going to enable them to beat these dudes, I wouldn't make a move. I wouldn't make a major move. And I don't really know if there's anybody out there. I just don't at this particular time, because I feel like the guys who could have done that are slowly coming off the books,
right,
so to speak, or getting traded. So I think it's tough. But look, that's enough about me ear beating. I want to thank y'all. We want to thank y'all for listening.
And that's something we can pick up on, Keith. I think that's a good conversation because
definitely, we're going to talk about this tomorrow. So we all need to, listen to James talking about Wilt yesterday. You listen to this today, and then tomorrow, you listen to us picking up on this debate that we have. But we want to thank y'all for listening, and we want y'all to have a blessed day. Peace.
Have a good one.